Tyranny, and that would be tyranny, is never far and away in America. Last Thursday, the Supreme Court ruled that OSHA's vaccine requirements for all businesses with over 100 people to either have their employees vaxxed or tested once a week was struck down. And I was reading through the court filings and a few things popped out to me. Yeah, I read all 30 pages today just for this. This is why this is why you need to like this video and subscribe and share it. Got it in there. So listen to this. Applicants are likely to succeed on the merits of their claims that the Secretary lacked authority to impose the mandate. Administrative agencies are creatures of statute. This is directly from the filings. They accordingly possess only the authority that Congress has provided. The Secretary has ordered 84 million Americans to either obtain a COVID-19 vaccine or undergo weekly medical testing at their own expense. This is no everyday exercise of power that it talks about in one of the dissents. It is instead a significant encroachment into the lives and health of a vast number of employees. We expect Congress to speak clearly when authorizing an agency to exercise powers of vast economic and political significance. And here's the thing. They want a mandate from Congress if a executive branch authority or executive branch agency is going to pass down something like this that has sweeping effects on the nation. And Congress did speak on this. It was a resounding no when they put it forth in the Senate on December 8th. No power was delegated to the executive branch from Congress to force this down the people's throats. And honestly, there are serious constitutional concerns on if there's a constitutional power delegated to Congress if they tried to pass this in the first place. Because you get down into the weeds of enumerated powers to the federal government versus general powers to the states. And there's a whole lot. It's actually really interesting to do a deep dive in, but we're going to stay on the surface level here. What's really chilling, though, here's the concurrence. Not only must the federal government properly invoke a constitutionally enumerated source of authority to regulate in this area or any other, it must also act consistently within the Constitution's separation of powers. And when it comes to that obligation, this court has established at least one firm rule. We expect Congress to speak clearly if it wishes to assign to an executive agency decisions of vast economic and political significance. And then they go on to say that OSHA did not meet that requirement. And this is most of the opening 2 pages written by Justice Gorsuch. OSHA does not have the mandate to force this down our throats or into our arms. But what's chilling is in the dissent. So, of course, Justice Sotomayor, Kagan, and the last one's, I think it's Bayer, maybe, is slipping my mind. But this is what they said. Justice dictate for reasons of policymaking. The results of its ruling is squarely at odds with the statutory scheme. As shown earlier, the Act's explicit terms authorize the standard being the shot, the mandate. See, whatever. OSHA must issue an emergency standard in the response to new hazards in workplace that expose employees to grave danger. The entire point of that provision is to enable OSHA to deal with emergencies, to put into effect the new measures needed to cope with new workplace conditions. The enacting Congress, of course, did not tell the agency to issue this standard in response to this COVID-19 pandemic because Congress could not have predicted the future, but that Congress did indeed want OSHA to have tools needed to confront emerging dangers, including contagious diseases in the workplace. So why is this chilling? Well, it's the fact that the left believes that OSHA can issue any emergency standards, or any other agency can issue emergency standards as long as there's a crisis, as long as there's an emergency. And there is always an emergency to the left. They want to rule by executive fiat coming down from agencies with absolutely no mandate from Congress. What do you think? Am I stretching this too far, Marcus?
No, I think this is how things get way too bad whenever you rule out of fear and trying to make things fast because of emergencies out of fear. That's a scary thing.
Well,
it really is.
There's no limiting principle here. The left the three leftist justices, they have no limiting principle. They can't say, as long as there's some sort of grave danger, some sort of emergency, some sort of crisis, there's no limiting principle on what any of the alphabet agencies could do. I mean,
that's why it's
they
scary, because
they want carte blanche on it.
Yeah, it's scary because it like the slippery slope that we talk about all the time is, first it starts with an emergency world virus sweeping the world, then they make up some other emergency to change them all, and that's just how you get way too far out of whack.
Well, I mean, here's what they're trying to do. They're literally trying to put on the same playing field making construction workers wear hard hats, or having drinkable water, having fresh drinkable water without contagions. They're trying to make that the same as being forced to get the shot. Whereas you can hang up your hard hat at the end of the day, you can't suck the vaccine at the end of the workday out of your arm. You can't just leave it at the office.
No, you can't.
So, underlying everything else, this is again from the dissent, the dispute is a single simple question. Who decides how much protection and of what kind American workers need from COVID-19? An agency with expertise in workplace health and safety, acting as Congress and the President authorized? Well, or I'm pretty sure Congress directly said no to this. Or a court lacking any knowledge of how it's to safeguard workplaces, talking about the Supreme Court, and insulated from responsibility for any damages that cause. So first of all, I want to say that experts have seemed to got every bit of this wrong. From the beginning of the pandemic, the experts have gotten everything wrong. I might get kicked off YouTube for saying that, but they have done everything wrong. But the question asked in both the concurrence and the dissent is this: who decides? So the vote that happened in the Supreme Court went to the people who are elected every 2 and 6 years by the public, Congress. And the fact that the federal government really doesn't have as much power as it acts like it has to regulate public health, because that is not something that has been enumerated to the federal government. That is largely a general power left to the states. It should 100% fall to the states. And with this ruling, freedom won. But if the dissent is anything to go by, the left would want 100% of the control to go to bureaucrats and bureaucracies. Technocrats that really are accountable to no one. Complete administrative tyranny as long as there is a crisis, and trust me, there is always a crisis. This is actually Donald Trump's biggest triumph. The fact that all three of his appointees voted in favor of the people. This will only be overshadowed if in June, when the Dobbs versus Jackson case is supposed to be handed down, if they also vote the correct way. That would then be Donald Trump's biggest accomplishment in office.
It could be a huge accomplishment for years
upon years.
Upon years.
Exactly. So who decides? Well, thankfully, according to the Supreme Court, not OSHA decides.